Hello, my name's Trent, and I'm the Weft Right. Welcome to my studio here in the mountains of Western North Carolina. I must admit, I feel like I've ignored my weavers for a little bit, and I have to do a weaving video coming off the tail of Tour de Fleece. I've been very busy because the school semester has started, and it started off so great. I'm really excited about this semester. It does mean I'm going to be a little bit busier, and there's something else major happening in my life if you want to stick around to the end to find out what's going on. But today I wanted to talk about some free online tools for weavers. And these aren't just any online tools. I taught myself this summer how to do some basic HTML code writing, and I came up with 10 really fun, really easy to use tools that any weaver can use. You don't have to subscribe, you don't have to enter your email, you don't have to log in. These are just tools you can use on your desktop, on your tablet, or on your phone. So without further ado, let's look at some of these really great and easy to use weaving tools. All right, so I think these tools are really exciting. The first thing you need to do is go to my website, which is the Weft Right, WRIGHT.com. Once you get to my website, which I think is really beautiful, you can go easily without signing up, without giving your name or email, to my interactive tools section. And here are all the tools I have, and there are a lot of them. One you've already seen in a video, and that is the pricing calculator. I'm going to link that video here and link it in the description down below. So if you would like to see how to use the pricing calculator, which is great for all fiber artists or really any crafter, I think that would be really helpful. Now, some of these tools are easily available on your basic weaving software, but some of them are not, and they're tools that I really love and use all the time now. First of all, if you are a person who is weaving to make money, then a material cost calculator is a really easy tool to use. So you can use metric if you like, but for me, I'm going to say the price per pound of the yarn I'm using is about $18 per pound. You can also do the price per ounce to make that a little bit easier. Now, I easily use the same warp and weft quite often when I'm weaving things like dish towels, but sometimes the warp is a little bit cheaper because I'll use an unbleached cotton. So let's say my weft yarn is a little more expensive at $20 a pound. And then the finished weight of the item, let's say it's a dish towel that weighs 5 ounces. A really rough cost is saying that that dish towel cost me $5.94. Now, this is a little bit extreme. The prices I actually pay because I buy yarn in bulk are a little bit different, but this just gives a really easy idea of how to use the price calculator so that you can calculate the cost by weight of your materials. We'll go back to the interactive tools. This is one of my favorite tools, and I hope everyone, if you don't use anything else, use this. So this is my interactive reed substitution chart. So I'm sure lots of you have seen reed substitution charts where you it's like a table that you look and see the reed size and the desired output. But this gives you really accurate estimates so that if you don't have a particular reed, you can get as close as you possibly can. So for instance, let's do an odd set. Let's say we want 21 ends per inch. You can actually get an exact match with both a 12 dent and a 6 dent reed. But if you don't have one, you can look and see all the other reeds that you might have and how you could get close. For instance, with a 5 dent reed, you could get 21.67, which is a little bigger. That's even closer with a 16 dent reed. But even with really common reeds like 15, 10, and 8, you can get pretty close with the 20 ends per inch. Let's do a really common set now, 24 ends per inch. Most people have a 12 dent or an 8 dent reed, so it's pretty easy to get 24 ends per inch. But if you don't have that, you could also use any of these to get pretty close. I mean, if you think about it, the difference in product of a 23.33 ends per inch and a 24 ends per inch is going to be pretty similar, and you can achieve that with a really common dent, the number 10. Let's go back to the main page. This is definitely a tool that you will find on most weaving software as a warp length calculator, but if you're just making simple warps as I do to dye later, you may not need all the other advanced project planning tools or need to spend the money. So you can freely calculate your warp length with this. It's very easy to use. You can use metric if you like, once again. So I would like to weave my scarf on the loom at, I don't know, let's say 80 inches. And so the fringe on one side, so that means you don't have to add it together, it'll do the math. Let's say I want a 6-inch fringe, and I'm going to weave 4 of these scarves. The loom waist on my loom in yards is about 1.5. Sampling, if I want some extra room for sampling, let's say I want an extra yard for sampling, and then the take up, which you can measure through sampling or just leave it at my estimate, which is about 5%, works for most projects. You can calculate, and you will need a warp of 13.17 yards. So you could round that up to about 13.25 yards, or if you're doing half yards, 13.5, however you want to interpret that. Let's go back, and this is my simple sectional warping calculator. So this is for when you're doing sectional warping and you want maybe all the yarns to be the same, you aren't doing any particularly complicated pattern, you're going to fill up all the sections with the same number of yarns. Just really simple things, like for me when I'm weaving dish towels or plain weave rugs, things like that just have a really simple warp. You also can do a little more complicated things by having different colors. So if you notice, some of the warps that I do are striped, and I have 1-inch sections. So let's say I want to weave a 24-inch scarf. So I'm going to do 24 sections because my sections are 1-inch. And let's say I'm going to do 2 colors, and that's going to add this drop down. So I'm going to name color 1 red. We're going to make a candy cane stripe scarf today. And out of the 24, I'm going to do 12 sections in red. Color white, I'm going to do 12 sections in white. The width of each section, we already said this, is 1 inch. The set is going to be, let's say for this scarf, pretty loose. I really like 18 ends per inch. And the warp length, you can use our calculator before. Let's say we'll use that. I'm going to do 13.5 yards. And buffer and take up was already added into that, so I'm not going to do any more. But honestly, for sectional warping, you do tend to waste just a little bit more yarn with the evening up of the tying on, so you may want to add some more. Once again, you can select to display this in meters instead of yards, and then calculate, and this is going to say that we need 18 ends per section. In red, we need 12 sections, totaling 216 ends. The total warp is this much. We're going to need 18 bobbins, and the yard per bobbin is 162 yards per bobbin, and that will give me all 12 sections. And then it also gives it to me for the other color as well. Super simple when you're making very easy warps on your sectional beam. If you're doing a more complicated warp, let's say a complicated series of stripes or some other kind of pattern, or your width is not an exact measurement to your sections, then what we'll do is we'll use the advanced sectional warping calculator, and this you have to have a weaving file, so a WIF file for. So I'm going to choose my file. So I've uploaded my WIF. Ends per inch, once again I'm going to do 18 ends per inch because that's a favorite for scarves for me. My section width is 1 inch. My warp length is, as we said earlier, 13.5. Loom waste is already calculated into this. The reason I've done this is in case you don't want to have to calculate later. This all happens in one place. Take up, all that's already calculated in. This is an important one. Avoid partial sections. If the width of your woven piece is not exactly in inches, so in whole inches, so let's say it's not 13 inches, so that would easily be 13 sections in a 1-inch sectional beam, then you don't want to have partial sections. So if it's 13.5 inches, you don't want to just put a half an inch into a section, because it won't have the correct tension and won't weave correctly. So I always click avoid partial sections, and this is where it gets cool. It gives you the exact colors with color codes, and you can see that my white bobbin, I'm going to need this many, and it actually numbers your bobbins for you to tell you how many bobbins you need and what each bobbin needs on it. So for instance, all of my white bobbins, except for bobbin 10, need 202.5 yards. I would probably round up just a little bit for some buffer, but this one bobbin in white only needs 13.5 yards on it because it's only used once in one section. The same with all the green, super easy. Once again, there's one, it's going to need that. And then you can tell you exactly what you need in each section. So I use plastic bobbins, and I simply mark with a magic marker on the bobbin what the bobbin number is, because that's easy to remove with just a damp cloth or a baby wipe. And now I can know exactly which bobbin goes in which section. Now you'll have to refer to your WIF for the threading order. This is a shadow weave, so it's just every other thread, so it's pretty easy to figure out. If it were a more complicated pattern, I just couldn't figure out a way to program it so it would also show you what pattern to put it in by. But this is a really advanced tool that's great for all you sectional warpers out there. Alright, the next tool is my Twisted Fringe calculator. It's super easy to use. You go in and tell you how many ends are in the warp, so let's say 280. The wraps per inch of the yarn, let's guess that it's like a 8-2 rayon, which is roughly 28 wraps per inch. This is important because the thicker your yarn, the fewer warp ends you want in each twisted section. And I like 2 sections twisted together, so I'm going to put that there and calculate. So this tells me that recommended threads per section is 6 threads per section, 48 total section, 23 groups, and the threads used is all of them, and I will have 4 leftover threads. And this gives me a note that you should evenly add those into the last 8 sections, so that some twisted bundles will have slightly larger sections. It would be impossible to divide 280 by 6 exactly, and that's why it gives you suggestions for adding them into the end so that it's not very noticeable. Shrinkage Estimator. This one I use quite often. I was always measuring things and cross-multiplying to figure out the shrinkage of my pieces. This is a really easy way to figure this out. So once again, you can use metric for this, but you want to say the width in the reed of the project. So on my loom, for instance, I'm weaving some dish towels right now, and I weave them very big. So they're 25 inches in the reed, and I weave them 36 inches measured on the loom. And after finishing, they're about 21 inches width in the reed, and the length is about 32. I wash them on hot and really hard, and they shrink a good bit. And so, let's say the desired finish length. Let's go back to the width in the reed. Let's say I actually want my desired to be 25 and my desired to be 36. That would be a little big. I actually like the shrunken size, but for this example, I'm going to calculate. And this is saying my shrinkage is 16%, which is crazy. I kind of made up these numbers. And then the length shrinkage is 11.11. And if I wanted to weave it so that it ended up 25 inches by 36 inches, I would have to weave it 29.76 by 40 and a half. And that would be how I would get my finished size. So I really love this calculator. I think it works really well. And if you want to take this and download it to your phone, you can simply use the download PDF, and it will download it on your laptop. It will download it to your computer, but you can download it directly to the files on your phone as well. This is what it downloads. I forgot to show you that earlier. Suggested set calculator. This one is pretty basic, but I thought I'd put it in so that all the tools were in one place. So if it gives a lot of really great advice here, but it simply says, if your wraps per inch, let's say it's 8.2 rayon, which once again is about 28 inches per inch, we'll calculate the set. And it says for plain weave, you want to go to 15 to 18. And some people may think this is loose. These are my opinions. These are also based on Jane Stafford's recommendations. I really like a soft drapey fabric. If you're weaving something that's really hard wearing, you may want to go up. Twill weaves, definitely you want to go up because they'll be too slinky at 18 inches per inch. And if you're doing a really lacy or open weave, you can go as low as 12 to 15 inches per inch. Let's go back and go to my final tool, and this one is just for fun. This one is for those people who are maybe thinking about getting a loom and want a little bit of guidance without having to talk to a friend. If you don't have any friends who are weaving friends, you can take this simple quiz. So what kind of projects are you most excited to make? Let's say I want to make rugs and heavy fabrics. How much space do you have? Let's say portability is key. How hands-on do you want to be? I want something simple. What's your experience level? Some frame and rigid heddle. And what's your budget? Let's say we can spend some money on this. Now, this is going to recommend a floor loom, like a jack or counterbalance loom, because, for things like rugs, you're going to need that sturdiness. It's going to give you some buying tips if you're buying it used to check the different things on this particular loom. And it's even going to give you some suggested places of finding used looms. So really fun little tool. Pretty simple, but I enjoyed making it. All right, back to real me and our conclusion. All right, I'm excited for you to check out some of those tools yourself. Once again, the website is www.theweftright, that's RIGHT.com, and you simply click on the header that says Interactive Tools. Now, I mentioned that I have some life changes. Well, we've decided to move again. This will be the third time I've moved in the last 3 years. We need to downsize. Love living here in the mountains of Western North Carolina. However, it is a very expensive resort area, and there's also a lot of retirees who bring a lot of money into the area, and they unfortunately have raised up the property values, and it's very expensive to live where I am now. So what we're going to do is be looking for a much smaller place, which means I may not have a guest bedroom to host my friends when they come visit, but I'm still hoping to have some kind of studio space. I don't know exactly when these moves are going to happen. Mid-October is when my lease is up, so please give me some great thoughts. If you are local to the area and you know of any places to live, you feel free to message me or drop a comment.
But I'm excited to still produce content for you. I'm going to try to get as much recorded before the move happens so that I can still be pumping out videos to you. And my aim is to have a video at least every 2 weeks. It's a little harder during the school season for me to do one every week, but I'm hoping to have one at least every 2 weeks. You may not know this, but I don't make any money off of ad revenue for this channel, and I am trying to grow a little bit by buying another camera so that when I do demos, I can see things at multiple angles at once, just to make recording a little bit easier and to give you more exciting and more valuable footage. So if you'd like to donate to my cause of buying another camera, you can donate down below at the Buy Me a Coffee link, or if you go into all the extra features of YouTube, you can also find a way to donate there, but it's a little more complicated and convoluted. So I would recommend that you do the Buy Me a Coffee. Until next week, thanks. Have a great day and enjoy what's left of summer.